Okay, I'm going through the college admissions homework assignment, and first item in the assignment refers to the accepted rejected column, but we won't do that until we've done everything else first. So the first thing is to determine whether the rank is bad. Now the rank is bad if the rank is greater than the class size. That's an impossible condition. And you don't need to use an if here. Anytime you want true or false to appear in a cell, you do not need an if. All you need is a logical test of some kind. And this is as simple as it gets. It's just equals class rank greater than class size. Okay? So if you look at my formula up here, it's a little easier to see. B2 is greater than C2. And actually I might zoom in on this a little bit and make the whole thing a little bit easier to see here. Okay, math SAT. A bad math SAT is one that is less than B17 or greater than B18. So equals, so there's two conditions there, and it's going to be an OR. So actually instead of typing it in, we'll do it this way. We'll cancel that. We'll go to the formulas tab up here, go to logical, and choose OR. So first test is the math is less than 200. Well, there's the math score right there, D2. Less than, and 200 is down here, and I want that to be absolute, so I need to put the dollar signs in. The other possibility is if D2 is greater than, and I need to scroll a little bit here, 800, either one of those conditions, and I want to make that absolute, so let's put the dollar signs in and click on OK. And there we go. Actually, I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit here because I want all of this to be on the screen. Okay. Bad verbal SAT is going to be, that's going to be another OR function, and OR, and the first possibility is that this is less than the 200 down here, and that's got to be absolutes when I copy it, or E2 is greater than this number down here, and make that absolute as well, and click on OK. Okay, now bad numbers. The rule for bad numbers is it evaluates to true if any of the values in the previous three columns is true. So that's an OR. Any means OR. So we're going to do the OR function. And if this is true, or this is true, or this is true, then I've got a bad number. Okay, now let's take all three of these, or all four of these rather, and get our fill handle and drag them down. And we will see there's a true, and all you need is one of the first three to have true over here. Here's a true, and it's caused by this one. Here's a true, and it's caused by this one. So every place where there's at least one true over here, we've got a true in the bad numbers column. Next item says we want true if the student has a perfect math or a verbal score, and that is a score of 800. So I want to know, and that's OR again, because if either one is true. So if the math SAT is equal to 800, and make that absolute, or if the verbal SAT is equal to 800, and let's make that absolute as well, and click on OK. And we will pull that down, and we see that right here we have a true, and that guy does have an 800, and right here we have a true, and that guy has an 800 as well. The next item is test to see if either score is under 300, and either means OR, so we're going to do an OR again. And I want to know if the math is less than 300, or the verbal is less than 300, and click on OK. And let's copy that down, and let's verify. There is one 250 and also 120, which is an invalid score, which we caught here, but that appears to be working. Total of 1200 or more. Okay, that's just one condition. I want to know if the sum of the scores, which is this plus this is greater than or equal to 1200. It said 1200 or more. And 700 and 700 is 1400, so that looks good. Let's copy this down. And there's a score. And if I double click on these, it'll highlight the other two numbers for me. That's going to 1290, so that's good. 1450, so that's good. 1390, so that's good. 1420, 1200 exactly, and 1320. So those are all appear to be working. Okay, next one says check and see if they're in the top 25% of their class. Well, they're in the top 25% of their class if the rank divided by the class rank is less than or equal to 25%. Okay. And let's get this and drag it all the way down. Yeah, it looks like this guy's in the top. Yeah, he's third out of 137. This guy is just barely in the top 25. He's 20th out of, or I'm sorry, 200th out of 800. This is top 25, 10th out of 240, obviously. And this one, 15 out of 137. That's also good. And 210 out of 980 is true. So those are all good. The next column, column O, is accept. And we're going to accept them if they have both 1200 or more and they're in the top 25% of their class. So I need to check both of those things. So both means and. So let's go to our logical here and choose and. And so if this is true and, whoops, I just messed that all up. And is true, then I'm okay. So let's double check and make sure that I actually said that correctly, because I did get a little messed up there. Yep, so if they're both true, then I will accept them. Here is one where they're both true, here's one where they're both true, and here's one where they're both true. So those should be the only ones that show up as true in this column. So there's one, and there's one. Okay. Now I want to know if the total is under 800, and that's just a single logical test. So I get the total by doing this plus this, and I want to see if that's under, so use less than 800. And let's see if we have anybody that has a total score under 800, and we do. This is 550, this is 760, and those are both being identified. Bottom 25%. That's defined as somebody whose class rank as a percentage is greater than 0.75. So let's do their class rank as a percentage, the rank divided by the class size. And if that is greater than 75%, then they're in the bottom 25% of their class. And let's see if we have anybody that meets that criteria. And it looks like here, this guy is 492 out of 506. That's definitely the bottom 25%. This guy is 190th out of 160. Now that was obviously a bad number, so we would have caught that here before we ever got that far. And the last thing then is reject them if either one of those is true. So that's going to be an OR function, and I want to know if this is true or if this is true. Click on OK. And then let's get fill handle and drag that down. And then the last thing is I want to know if I should accept them or reject them. And the rules are given on the bottom part of the second page of the instructions. And I need to use nested ifs, which means I have to type them out, I think. So if they has bad numbers, that would be if there's a true here, then we're going to reject. If not, we need to do another if, and that is to see if they have a perfect score. And if they do, then we want accept to appear in the cell. If that's not true, we need another if, and that is if they're under 300, there'll be a true in that value. Whoops, I forgot the if. If L2 is true, comma, reject. Otherwise, if the accept column here has the value true in it, then we can accept. Otherwise, if there's a true in the reject column here, then we reject. And if none of those is true, then we go to committee. And let me see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ifs. I need 5 parentheses on the end there. And hit enter. And looks like this guy goes to committee. And if I drag that down, and if I go check here, let me see. He doesn't have bad numbers. He doesn't have perfect score. He's not under 300. It doesn't say accept. It doesn't say reject. So he goes to committee. This guy we're going to reject because he has a bad number. It's the verbal SAT. This guy we're going to reject because he's under 300. This guy goes to committee because no bad numbers, no perfect score, no under 300, no accept, no reject. So he goes to committee. Reject. We've got a bad class rank here, so bad numbers is true. And we don't get any further than that. This one we're going to accept. He doesn't have bad numbers, but he does have a perfect score, so we're going to accept him. This guy also has a perfect score, so we're going to accept him. This guy we're going to reject because he has a bad number. His math SAT is bad. Can't get a 900. Okay, this one gets accepted because no bad numbers, no perfect score, not under 300, but total of 1,200 or more and top 25% of the class. We got a true here, which means that we will accept. Another committee, that means we didn't have any reason to accept or reject. No bad numbers, no perfect score, no under 300, no accept, no reject, so it goes to committee. And the last one is accept. And there's no bad numbers, there's no perfect score, there's no under 300, but there is an accept because of the total being over 1,200 or more and also being in the top 25%. So this is the cell right there that's getting us accepted for that last person. So there's also a little bit on the assignment about doing a header and setting the page orientation, but everybody I assume knows how to do that, so we won't go into that here. So that's what you should have done to get an A on this assignment.